From the Cold War to the modern day, the United States has played a significant role in removing or influencing governments across the globe. But why has the U.S. been involved in regime change? Some argue it's to promote democracy. Others say it's about protecting economic or geopolitical interests. In this video, we'll explore the most significant instances of U.S. involvement in regime change over the last 50 years. Section 1, Cold War Era, 1945 to 1991. Iran, 1953, Operation Ajax. In 1953, the CIA orchestrated one of the most famous regime change operations in history. Iran's Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh had nationalized the country's oil industry, which angered Britain and the U.S., fearing it would disrupt their oil interests. The CIA's covert operation, known as Operation Ajax, led to the overthrow of Mossadegh and the reinstatement of the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. This set the stage for years of political unrest in Iran, culminating in the Islamic Revolution of 1979. Guatemala, 1954, Operation PB success. Just a year after the Iranian coup, the U.S. set its sights on Guatemala. President Jacobo Arbenz, who had begun land reforms that threatened U.S. companies like the United Fruit Company, was seen as a communist sympathizer by Washington. The CIA launched Operation PB success, which included supporting a military coup to remove Arbenz. The aftermath saw decades of brutal military regimes, marking the start of a long history of U.S. intervention in Latin America. Cuba, 1961, Bay of Pigs invasion. In 1961, just 2 years after Fidel Castro's Cuban Revolution, the U.S. attempted to remove him through the infamous Bay of Pigs invasion. Backed by the CIA, Cuban exiles launched an invasion to overthrow Castro's communist government. The operation was a disaster, with the U.S. failing to support the exiles adequately, leading to their defeat and strengthening Castro's grip on power. This failure was a key moment in the Cold War, intensifying U.S.-Cuban tensions. Dominican Republic, 1965. In 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson ordered the U.S. to intervene in the Dominican Republic after a military coup ousted President Juan Bosch. Fearing the rise of a leftist government in the Caribbean, the U.S. deployed thousands of troops to restore order and install a more pro-American government. This intervention was part of a broader strategy to prevent the spread of communism in the Western Hemisphere. Chile, 1973, CIA-backed coup. One of the most controversial U.S. interventions occurred in Chile. In 1970, Salvador Allende, a Marxist, was elected president. The U.S., fearing that Chile might become a Soviet ally, began covertly supporting opposition groups and military leaders. In 1973, General Augusto Pinochet led a coup overthrowing Allende's government. The U.S. provided support for Pinochet's brutal dictatorship, which lasted for nearly 2 decades, during which thousands of Chileans were tortured and killed. Section 2, Post-Cold War Era, 1991 present. Panama, 1989, Operation Just Cause. In 1989, the U.S. invaded Panama to depose its leader, General Manuel Noriega. Once an ally of the U.S., Noriega fell out of favor due to his involvement in drug trafficking and his authoritarian rule. The invasion, called Operation Just Cause, led to Noriega's capture and imprisonment, but it also caused significant civilian casualties and damage to Panama's infrastructure. Iraq, 2003, Operation Iraqi Freedom. In 2003, the U.S. invaded Iraq, toppling the regime of Saddam Hussein. The justification was Iraq's alleged weapons of mass destruction and its ties to terrorism. However, no such weapons were found, and the invasion led to years of conflict, instability, and the rise of ISIS. Saddam's brutal dictatorship came to an end, but the consequences for Iraq and the broader region were devastating. Afghanistan, 2001, War on Terror. After the September 11th attacks, the U.S. launched an invasion of Afghanistan to dismantle al-Qaeda and remove the Taliban from power. The Taliban had provided sanctuary to Osama bin Laden and other terrorist groups. The U.S. installed a new government, but the country remained embroiled in conflict for nearly 2 decades, culminating in the chaotic withdrawal of U.S. forces in 2021. Libya, 2011, NATO intervention. In 2011, the U.S. and NATO intervened in Libya to overthrow Muammar Gaddafi. Gaddafi's rule, which lasted for 42 years, was marked by repression and authoritarianism. As civil unrest swept the country, the U.S. led airstrikes to support rebel forces, and Gaddafi was eventually captured and killed. However, Libya descended into chaos after his removal, leading to ongoing instability. Ukraine, 2014 U.S. support for revolution. While not a direct military intervention, the U.S. played a significant role in Ukraine's 2014 revolution, which ousted President Viktor Yanukovych after he abandoned a trade deal with the European Union in favor of Russia. The U.S. supported pro-Western factions, and after Yanukovych fled, a new government was installed. This event set the stage for ongoing conflict with Russia, which annexed Crimea and backed separatist groups in eastern Ukraine. U.S. interventions in regime change have had mixed outcomes. In some cases, they've toppled oppressive regimes, but in others, they've led to chaos, civil war, and long-term instability. These interventions have been driven by a variety of factors, from combating communism during the Cold War to securing geopolitical interests. Whether promoting democracy or protecting American influence, these actions have shaped the modern world in profound ways. But the question remains, how should the U.S. approach regime change in the future? If you found this video informative, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below with your thoughts on U.S. interventions. And as always, stay tuned for more deep dives into global politics.